My name is William Totten. I'm a proud grandson and a great nephew of 2 West Virginia State Troopers. This is a documentary about the pride of a West Virginia State Trooper family. The first interview I did was with my grandfather, William Totten, to get his point of view on joining and serving the West Virginia State Police. Why did you join the State Police?
I wanted to make a difference. I was always interested in law enforcement, and the opportunity came up when I was 18 years of age. Vietnam was still going on, but they were bringing the guys home at that point. So I interviewed and was selected for a position in the cadet class. And that was in 1973, August of 73.
How long did you serve?
I served 26 years, and presently serving 18. Well, I've been in my present position as Deputy Commissioner of the Division of Motor Vehicles for the past 18 years. Not as Deputy Commissioner, but as a Director, and for the past year and a half as Deputy Commissioner.
Interesting. Okay. What kind of training did you have to go through to become a state police officer?
To actually become a state police officer, you have to go to the State Police Academy, and you have to pass a physical and mental cadet class, and it takes 6 months. And now I think it's up to 7 months. They have an associate degree from Marshall University for law enforcement now.
What did a typical day look like on the job?
Well, it depends on at what point that you're in the state police. The first part was as a field trooper, and a normal day would be just consisting of road patrol, taking complaints such as breaking and enterings, house burglaries, murders. Investigations would include some airplane crashes, small airplane crashes, and a lot of accidents.
What were your responsibilities as a trooper?
Well, that was it would change. Every promotion that I received, my responsibilities would change. I started off as cadet, and then I went to Huntington, to the Huntington State Police. From Huntington, I went to Winfield Detachment. From Winfield, I went to Madison Detachment. And from Madison, I was promoted and sent over to Hamlin, that's Lincoln County, as the detachment commander, which is one of the poorest counties that you have in the state, but it's a lot of farmland, a lot of good people. Received another promotion as district commander, and that was at Barber County and Upshur County. So then my responsibilities changed. So I had supervised the state police officers at those locations. After leaving, I came into what's called the State Police Headquarters, which is located in South Charleston. And at that point, I was over the driver's testers, the commercial examiners for commercial trucks, over the motor vehicle inspection. And probably one of the things that I did that impacted a lot of people is I designed the sticker that went on the windshield of every car in the state, every vehicle that needed to be inspected. And that went on for 17 years, and this year they finally changed the design, but still similar to the design that I made. I was also over the traffic fatalities. We would see all the traffic fatalities within the state. So these responsibilities are changing. And at that point, I retired. I went to work for the Division of Motor Vehicles, and I went in as their top person. We transferred the agency requirement of giving driver's tests to the Division of Motor Vehicles. And see, state police used to give all driver's tests. And since I had a background in that, then I was able to retire, and that's when I went over to DMV. And after 9/11, they wanted an investigation unit started over at DMV. The commissioner came to me and asked me to start the unit. And I said, fine. And the reason why, we didn't want people flying aircraft in the buildings with West Virginia identification. A lot of those people that were involved in 9/11, they had Virginia identification. Just luckily it wasn't from West Virginia. And so we start at that point, start checking a lot of backgrounds. If a person would come in that we felt was not telling us the truth, and then we would investigate it. And that's still going on today. And we work closely with the federal government. We work closely with people out of DC. And we also work closely with all local law enforcement agencies statewide. And then I was given the opportunity a year and a half ago to become, I was asked to become by the commissioner to become a deputy commissioner to assist. So we have one deputy commissioner, we have one commissioner at DMV, and we have one deputy commissioner, and then we have 7 directors that's actually over different sections. So that's where we're at today.
Okay. How did technology change through the years of being a state trooper?
Well, technology, when we first started, and at the academy, one of the classes that we had was typewriting, because at that point we didn't have computers. So we actually had manual typewriters that we had to use to write up reports and to submit them into investigations. The detachment secretary had to use manual typewriters too. And eventually we went to electric typewriter that had a backspacer that would erase the mistake that you made, and then eventually into computers. And now they actually have computers in the cars.
Tell me of a time when you felt you make a difference of a big impact.
Probably the biggest one was I was involved in. I worked with the FBI and a task force, and I had some informants that were able to actually provide information that resulted in the recovery of $1.5 million in stolen property, such as semi-trucks, wreckers. The semi-trucks, trailers with actual loads on it, they were given up for insurance purposes. This also involved drugs too, because when you have thefts, you also have drugs, or vice versa. And that resulted in the arrest of 120 to 130 people. And we did that fairly, and that was called Operation Mindstopper. And that was at Huntington. That was when I was detachment commander at Hamlin. that I actually worked with the task force. And then they presented all the stolen property at the Huntington, I think it's the Huntington Civic Center. It might be called Big Sandy now.
Did Operation Mindstormer get public?
We actually had a day in which the news people and reporters could come in and actually touch the property that we were recovering. And this property was, it was stored at what's called an off-site. An off-site is a place in which nobody knows about. We had to put a fence up around the building that we were using at the off-site, and it wasn't necessarily to keep bad people out, but it was to keep police out because we had all these stolen equipment, and people were starting to wonder what exactly that we were doing. So that was pretty interesting. And then when we made all the arrests in the Huntington area, that involved arrests from Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia.
Do you have any funny stories about a day on the job?
Well, I can tell you one. There was a armed robbery that was committed, and this was like on Route 17 going towards Blair Mountain, and another officer investigated, and the store owner, he was actually shot during the armed robbery, but he was shot in the arm and he's okay. Another trooper I was with that was actually investigating the crime, he said he had to go up because this person just got out of the hospital to talk to him. And I said, well, I have a warrant for another guy, so let's go up there and serve that. And then, you know, if this guy's home, it was just a minor offense. I think it was like a trespassing. So we drove up, and on Route 17, like going towards Blair Mountain, we went up and picked up the person for the trespassing. And I had him in the back seat of the car, and he was being transported. And so the other officer that I was with, he stopped by the store where that person just got out of the hospital. And when he got out of the car, and I stayed in the car since this guy was under arrest. And I said, okay, now what happened? You know, what I was talking about was what happened during the trespassing, what the warrant was about and all that. Because I didn't sign the trespassing warrant, somebody else got the trespassing warrant on. And he looked at me and he said, I was there. There was two people that were in ski masks during the armed robbery. And he said, okay, I was there, but I didn't shoot him. Now that was funny because I wasn't even asking about that, but he confessed to me about committing an armed robbery. So that was a good day, and the other officer came back out, and I told him they already know who shot him and who cleared it up, and so that was pretty funny that day.
What was it like having your little sister in the state police as well?
Well, during that time, she was probably I would say at that point, she was probably the second woman or female that was taken by the West Virginia State Police. And you have to realize during that time, you know, that was considered a male position. And, but after several lawsuits, they eventually had started taking females. So I was concerned about her in the way that she would be treated by fellow members of the state police. Most of them, I'll say 98% of them treated her fairly, but you always have one or two that didn't. And then I was concerned about her being out by herself, but you know, she has a level head. She was she's able to take care of herself a lot. So you had to have work, yes, but I also know that she was also capable of taking care of herself.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about being in the state police?
Well, nowadays, since police work is not I would say, as acceptable from the public standpoint. Now, we have a lot of people that still support the police, but then there's a lot of movement towards the police, and I feel like that the police nowadays are being blamed for all the society problems that we have, and they expect a police officer to take care of all the problems. And I'm not saying that we don't have bad police officers, because we do, but a majority, and I'll say 99.9% of police officers, they want to do the right thing, and they want to do the best job that they can. But it's a lot different now. Back when I was in the police, and the people really appreciated it. They didn't call her to the office. They'd wait until I come home, in which your dad could probably tell you that I would get a lot of phone calls at home, and that we would walk out in the morning onto the porch, and I'd have tomatoes, I had green beans, just local people dropping them off. That just showed an appreciation for the work that we did in that community. Back during that period of time, I was glad I went in. I'm not so sure right now if I would want to do that. The state police is it's the best organization probably within the United States. They are troopers. They're not highway patrolmen. They have to take care of the communities. In some places, you have sheriff's department that's real small, and the county doesn't have that good of a budget, and they depend on the state police a lot more than some counties do. And I got a lovely family, and I love my two grandsons a lot. I think of them often, and my son, my daughter, and my daughter-in-law, and my wife too. So, yeah, we really appreciate. I appreciate you asking the questions that you did about the state police. It is a great organization. It's paramilitary, and from that, I'll close.
Thank you, Mr. Benson Totten.
Grandpa.
Grandpa. The next interview was with my great-grandmother, Phyllis Totten, whose son and daughter both joined the West Virginia State Troopers. How did you feel having two of your three children in the state police?
I was very proud when they both went in. When my son went in first, I was very proud, and then when his sister followed in his footsteps, that made me especially proud that they both chose the state police as their career. I felt like they had very good training in the state police. So I'm still very proud of them, what even they're doing today. So I've been especially proud that they spent many years in the state police.
Did you worry about their safety? How do you cope with any stress?
I try not to worry too much, but of course there was always some anxiety when certain things would happen that would be in the news. It would make me become more aware of the dangers that they face, but I tried to cope with it and not worry so much. I felt like their training would help them. They had good people working with them, and so I just tried to cut down on the stress. I probably would have worried had they been in other professions, but in the police profession, it's a little bit more of anxiety for the parents and the family involved.
How do you support your children's career choices in the state police?
I've always been supportive of whatever my children wanted to do, and they've always made good choices. I just feel like giving them the freedom to make the choices is helpful to them, and they know that I stand behind them and support them in everything, and especially in their profession.
Is there anything else you want to add about being a mother of both your son and your daughter being in the state police?
I'd like everyone to know that they've had a very good career. They progressed nicely in their careers, both of them, and I think it's a very good profession if a person has to really want to be in it, in the state police, and they will have made a good choice. I feel like both my son and daughter made excellent choices when they went into the West Virginia State Police.
The next interview was with my great aunt, William Totten. I also asked her about joining and serving in the West Virginia State Police. Why did you join the state police?
When I was young, I always had interest in law enforcement, specifically the being a police officer. And so after I graduated college, I went to West Virginia, after I graduated high school, I went to West Virginia State, where I majored in criminal justice. And upon graduating from West Virginia State College, the state police was testing, and my brother Dempsey Totten, who is your grandfather, he encouraged me to join because he was a member of the state police. And so he was like my mentor. And so I tested and was hired, and that's how my...
How long did you serve?
25.5 years.
What kind of training did you have to go through to become a state police officer?
You have to attend the West Virginia State Police Academy at Institute for approximately 6 months, and a typical day began with reveille at 5:45. You would get up, get dressed, go to PT. Once you were finished with your physical fitness exercise, you had cleaning chores to do. You would have to clean your rooms and also clean other areas, common areas of the academy grounds. Then you would get dressed, stand for inspection, and you would get in formation in the middle of the academy compound. And they would raise the flag, and then you would march in, signal file into the cafeteria. After breakfast, you were in the class from 8 a.m. in the morning until sometimes 8 or 9 at night. But a typical day would be at least from 8 to 5 you would be in the classroom. And if you had any free time at night, you were always studying or doing something related to being a cadet at the academy, such as maybe typing your notes, reading other law enforcement literature.
What did a typical day look like on the job?
Well, no 2 days were ever alike, but you could get anything between car wrecks were very common, writing traffic citations. Sometimes you would get calls such as burglaries, destruction of property, an occasional homicide, bank robberies, grand larcenies. Other part of your duties would be motorist assist. If you're driving down the road and you see a motorist that's broke down, it's part of your job to stop and render assistance to see if they needed aid. And back then there weren't cell phones, so people could be broke down for quite a while without someone knowing where they were. There were many other calls. You would go on domestic violence calls. You could, or we had to serve orders from Department of Motor Vehicles. And that would be if someone's license were revoked, we would go pick their license up. So it would vary every day. No 2 days were exactly alike, but basically you did road patrol, criminal investigation, and investigate accident.
How did technology change through the years of being a state trooper?
The first big improvement I noticed over the years was in the communication department. When I first came in, we did not have handheld radios. You had your radio in your car, but once you exited your vehicle, you did not have communication with the dispatcher or with other members. And so as time went on and money became available and technology advanced, we were able, the state police purchased handheld radios, which greatly improved your communications. And the range of the towers, the radio towers where the communications went through greatly improved, because at times early on in my career, you could be in a remote area of West Virginia and not have radio contact with anyone due to it being such a remote area. Another area that I saw technology make great improvements is with the APHIS system, which is an automated fingerprint identification system. And it is a national database where fingerprints are entered into the system through digital technology. And for example, if I would go to a burglary and lift a latent fingerprint and I didn't know who it belonged to, I could submit these fingerprints to our crime lab, and if someone had been entered into the system already, I could possibly get a match and find out who committed the burglary. Now, people that are in the automated system have prior convictions for crimes. They don't just automatically put everyone in the system. You had to have a prior criminal conviction.
Tell me a time when you felt you made a big difference or a big impact.
I felt dealing with children that had been abused, either physically or sexually. Women typically, I believe, had more of a nurturing aspect when dealing with children and doing interviews. Typically the male troopers, they were not very comfortable doing these type of interviews, whereas as a female, I got quite a few of those. And when I was stationed in Kanawha County, I was on the first multidisciplinary team for child abuse. And that team involved someone from the prosecutor's office, a physician, a member of DHHR, law enforcement, and the whole purpose was so when we were interviewing children, they only had to go through one interview versus going through maybe 3 or 4 interviews with different agencies. And I felt honored to be I was one of the members of the first one of these multidisciplinary teams in Kanawha County.
Do you have any funny stories about a day on the job?
Yes, I have. There's one that comes to mind. I was going on a gun call. We had received a call of shots fired. And when you get a call like that, your adrenaline's pumping. You have a heightened sense of awareness of your surroundings. So when I got to the call, when I got to the scene, I exited my vehicle, and it was in the summertime, and I left my door open. I was concentrating on my surroundings, looking to see if there was someone with a gun. And I talked to the caller, and the person who had threatened them with a gun had already left the scene. So once we figured out everything was okay, I went back and got in my car. I had another trooper with me, and I went and got in my car, and when I shut the door, I felt something jump on my back. Of course, it scared me to death because, like I said, my adrenaline's still pumping from the excitement of getting the gun call, and turned out a cat had jumped into the back seat of the car where I'd left my door open, and when I shut the door, it scared the cat. So he jumped on my shoulders, which in turn scared me, and I'm sure the person I was with thought it was very funny, but it scared me for a moment, but then it was funny afterwards, so. So that's the first story that comes to mind.
What was it like your big brother in the state police as well? That was not what it was.
It was wonderful. He, as I said before, he was like my mentor. Dempsey was the reason I went in state police. I didn't think I could perform the duties. There weren't very many women in. I went in 1983. And Dempsey, your grandfather, encouraged me every step of the way. And like I said, once I did get in, if I had an issue or something I just wanted to talk to him about related to the department, he was always willing to listen and offer an opinion if I needed one. And it just, it was really nice having someone who understood the job, someone that I could trust and talk to freely, and always gave me good advice.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about being a state police trooper?
I would like to add, I am very proud to have been a member of the state police. It was a wonderful time in my life. I met some wonderful, amazing people. I was able to travel throughout West Virginia and sometimes out of state. Sometimes my job took me out of state. I was on governor's security for a while, and we would travel with the governor and first lady. And I wouldn't change it for anything. I would do it all over again. And like I said, family support when you're in law enforcement is so crucial, because sometimes you need someone just to give you that support, and you need to know that your family's there for you no matter what. And I can't imagine having went through the academy and did 25 years in the state police without that support. So I really enjoyed it, and I love my family, and I'm honored that you asked me to do this interview.
The next interview was with my father, William Totten. I was looking forward to learn about what it was like having a father in the West Virginia State Police. How was life like with a father who was a state police officer?
Life was very interesting, but very, very good. I would remember many times when people would come up to me, and knowing that my father was in the state police, and thanking him. We couldn't go anywhere in the state without him running into people he would know from just about any county that we went to. It was very good. I was very, very proud of him. Sometimes it was difficult because he would be gone a lot, but I know that he was doing a really good job and helping out a lot of people.
Did you worry a lot?
Yeah, I did worry a lot. I did fear for his safety, especially after I would see some things in the news where maybe a police officer got hurt, or even a movie when I was really young, and I didn't quite understand it. But I know that he was always very careful. He was very, very good at what he did. He's very methodical, and he would always try to de-escalate situations, try to solve the situation with harsh words or violence and everything. He'd always try to de-escalate the situation and get everybody out there as safely as possible. But so I did worry a lot, but I also knew that he did a great job.
Did your friends treat you different with your father being a state police?
Did my friends treat me differently? I would say a little bit. They did treat me a little bit. I certainly, when people knew that, I was not bullied ever. But maybe they did treat me a little bit differently. People would always come up to me, and friends they'd always, when our state police, they would treat me a little bit differently, with a little bit more respect, and they would ask me, what did my father do, and you know, did he make any arrests or anything like that, or catch any bad guys, and especially when I was in elementary school, and that made me feel, you know, oh yeah, he'd always do that. You know, I remember there were times too when, not just friends, but other people too, they would come and just leave stuff in the middle of the night, like on our porch, foods and things like that, or vegetables and things like that. I got a lot of respect down, especially in those rural communities down in Boone County, where I grew up when I was really young.
Anything else you wanna like to add?
Just like to add that I'm extremely proud to have my father be in the state police. I know he helped tons and tons of people when he was in the state police back in the 80s and 90s. West Virginia had the lowest crime rate in the whole nation as a state. And I know my dad he always enjoyed, you know, he would do the traffic stops and write, you know, traffic accident reports and all that stuff. And, you know, just part of his routine job. But he really, really liked the investigative aspects of his job. And I know that he loved that stuff. And he just doing that, or every time he had to go out and protect young kids or domestic assault victims, was when he loved that portion of his job, and he was very, very good at it. And I was just very proud that he was my father, and very proud of the work the state police does. I do agree that is one of the best, if not the best, police organization in the United States.
The next interview was with my grandmother, Carol Totten. I wanted to find out what it was like to be married to a West Virginia state trooper. Why did you marry a state police officer?
Well, he was not in the state police when I first met him. We met in high school as seniors. Well, we knew each other. We lived in the same town, so we knew who each other was, but we didn't get together and start dating until February of our senior year. So what I knew about him then was that he was a responsible person. He was a good person, but he was not in the state police, or wasn't even talking about the state police at that time. So after we graduated, that was when we had some friends, one of whose one of whose father was the superintendent of the state police. His name was Bonar. And so he met Dempsey, and I guess was impressed with him and started having conversations with him about becoming a state policeman. And it was significant because Dempsey was 18 at the time, and this was the first time that the state police ever hired anyone that young, always before the age limit had been 21. So Dempsey went in as one of two 18-year-olds in his class. We had already been dating about a year, and we got married in December 1973, and he graduated from the academy in January 1974. So I knew him before he was a state police.
How did you feel knowing that your husband had a very dangerous job?
Well, I had really good ability to deny things, and so I just didn't think about it much. Of course, I knew that what he did was dangerous, but he pretty much controlled what he told me about. A lot of times I didn't hear about the dangerous stuff until after it was already over. I knew that he worked long hours, and I knew some of what he did, but some of it he just didn't tell me about. So, but it was always a constant worry, especially if you get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he has to go run out to some kind of thing where a gun was involved, or people were fighting, and you always worried until he got home again.
What coping strategies did you use to deal with the stress having a state police trooper as a husband?
Okay. My coping strategies, as I say, were all about denial and not hearing about things as they happened. For me, the coping strategies for having a state policeman as a husband were just to be able to manage on my own for many hours. He would go to work at 9 o'clock in the morning or sometimes earlier, and sometimes he would have lunch with his friends because I was working usually. And so when he got home from work, he would take about an hour or two off for dinner. So we would have that time together, and then he would go back out to work, and sometimes I wouldn't see him till midnight or 1 o'clock. Sometimes he wouldn't get home. So he worked very, very long hours. And so you just had to be able to be a little bit independent, be able to get things done without his help, because oftentimes he wasn't there to be able to help. And then it helped you really to kind of cherish the time that you had together on the weekend or on his days off. Then you just had to try to really make that count. Actually, he was off Saturday night and Sunday and half a day on Monday. He had really good hours. A lot of people, their days off would begin on a Tuesday night and they'd be off Wednesday and half a day Thursday. So we had a pretty good schedule. When we first got married and we moved to Huntington, that was his schedule. So we had on Saturday night, all day Sunday, and half a day on Monday where we could do whatever we wanted to. And usually, the minute that he got home, we were on the road coming back home because we wanted to see our families or our friends back here in the St. Albans area. And so it's not that we didn't like Huntington. We did like Huntington, but we often spent a lot of time traveling back and forth between the two places, which is not very far. Then when you went to Boone County, it was sort of the same thing. In Boone County, we moved there probably about 5 years after we'd been married, and it was a different world really from the St. Albans area, Charleston area that we had grown up in. It was a very insulated community, and really very small town. And even if you'd never met somebody, they knew who you were. You'd go to the grocery store and people would say to me, "Are you that state policeman's wife?" And I said, "How do you know that?" So somehow everybody always knew who you were there, and there was some respect that went along with that too. So that was okay. So living in Boone County was really good. The profession of the state police was well respected, and people were very nice. Yes, I read many books, watched a lot of TV, watched a lot of Johnny Carson, late night TV. You don't even know who that is. So, people would say to me, "How can you stay up late and watch that show when you have to get up early in the morning and go to work?" And I'm saying, "I have to stay up and wait for my husband to get home." So I watched all the late night comedy shows.
What was it like raising children while your husband was working long hours?
Okay, all right. So we had children about 5.5 years after we got married. So we had been, two people in the family were working all the time. So that all changed when we moved to Boone County, and the job that I had in the Huntington area was a good job, and I made nice money. And in Boone County, I just could not find a job like that. So I decided to have children. So that was good. And raising the children there was nice. It was a good place to raise children, and lots to do. We had some parks that we went to every day, and we lived close to some schools where we walked around the tracks, and we had a good time there in Boone County. And and so he was still working long hours at this time, and while the children were in preschool years, oftentimes the kids, we would stay up and wait for Daddy to get home, and then everybody would sleep late in the morning. We had to quit that when school started, but it was good. He wasn't home much, but when he was home, he tried to make it count. Spend some good time with the kids.
Is there anything else you want to add of being the wife of a state police trooper?
Well, let's see. I would have to say that I was proud. I was proud of my husband. There were lots of things that happened that made me proud of him. There were times when he helped people a lot. There were times when there was a time when he pulled a car over that was speeding, and when he got to the window, he found out there was a baby in the car, choking, not breathing, and they were rushing this baby to the hospital. And so he took the baby, found an obstruction in the baby's throat, and the baby started breathing. You know, so that kind of stuff was amazing. And he was always about trying to solve burglaries and investigate crimes. So that I thought was something to be proud of. I know he liked to spend his time doing criminal investigations more than, say, like giving tickets. But I know he probably gave a lot of tickets, but you know, he'd rather spend his time trying to help find out who the bad guys were. And in fact, that's one of the things I used to say with the children. It's time for Daddy to go to work. He's got to go catch some bad guys. So yes, I'd say it's a very proud profession, and I was happy to be the wife of
Last interview was with my Aunt Jamie Totten. I also wanted to talk with her about being a daughter of a West Virginia state trooper. So how was life like with your father, who was a state police officer?
I remember when I was young, he was gone a lot, and he would be out doing extra shifts. He did a lot of hard work. So I remember him working to support our family, and I remember him being in uniform a whole lot. I remember him coming home and being very careful with his guns because he didn't want your dad and I to play with the guns because he knew how dangerous they were.
Did you worry a lot?
I did. I worried about his safety. I worried that he wouldn't come home because there was some crazy person who was making threats against him. Remember when I was young, Mom and Dad told me about he had death threats. And I remember worrying that somebody would try to come and hurt him and hurt the rest of our family because he had arrested them and they were crazy. So yeah, I did. I worried about my dad a lot, and I was grateful every time I saw him come home.
Did your friends treat you differently with your father being in state police?
I think so. They probably didn't say the things around me that they said around other kids. I never felt that they treated me differently, but I felt like they probably, when they got into some stuff that they shouldn't have gotten into in high school, they kind of tended to go away from me, which was fine because I didn't want involved in that anyway. I feel like they probably left some details out that they would have told me otherwise if my dad weren't a state trooper, which is fine because I didn't want to know it anyway.
Is there else you would like to add?
Oh, I have very much respected Dad for being a state trooper. He was an upstanding man. He always had a very strict but loving way with us, and I feel like he really did a good job because of his career in disciplining Will and I and making us, you know, because he saw a lot of bad things that happened to kids who didn't do the right things, and I think he kind of tried to direct us away from that, which was good. And I was always very proud to see him in his uniform. I wasn't always proud to pull up in his police car, so if I ever had to ride in the police car, I tried to hide from my friends. But no, it was really nice. So thanks for interviewing me.
You're welcome. Throughout the interviews, the one thing in common was the pride and respect of each person had for the West Virginia State Police. Though it was a dangerous job, the family of these two West Virginia State Troopers were always loving and supportive of them.